My daughter called yesterday afternoon. We talked for about 40 minutes, just catching up. She told me about her work project, some issue with her boss, what my grandson is doing in school, plans for the holidays. This morning, she called again, said she forgot to tell me something yesterday. I said, "No, you didn't. You told me about the deadline being moved up, about how your boss doesn't understand the scope, and about needing to hire another person on the team." There was silence on the other end. Then she said, "Mom, how do you remember all that? I barely remember what I told you." She's 54. I'm 88. I'm Dorothy Chambers. I live by myself in a small apartment in Ohio. No assisted living, no memory care facility. Just me and my books and my routines. People are always surprised when they find out I live alone at my age. They ask if I'm lonely, if I'm scared, if I need help. The answer to all three is no. What I need is to keep my mind working, and I figured out how to do that. 6 years ago, things were different. I'd forget conversations within hours. I'd walk into rooms and have no idea why. I'd lose track of what day it was, what I'd already done, what I still needed to do. My daughter started hinting about moving in with her, or finding a place with more support. I wasn't ready for that. I knew if I gave up my independence, I'd lose more than just my apartment. I'd lose myself. So I started paying attention, watching what helped my mind work and what made it worse. And over time, I found 5 things that brought my memory back, made me sharper than I'd been in years. If you're willing to subscribe, I'd appreciate it. What I'm sharing isn't from a medical journal. It's from 6 years of figuring out what actually works when you're trying to keep your mind clear at this age. Let me tell you about the first thing. Every morning, before I do anything else, I spend 15 minutes writing in a notebook. Just writing whatever comes to mind, not typing, not using a computer, actual pen and paper, cursive if possible, though my handwriting isn't what it used to be. I write about what I dreamed, if I remember, what I'm planning to do that day, what I'm thinking about. Sometimes it's coherent, sometimes it's just fragments. Doesn't matter. What matters is the act of forming letters with my hand. When I first started doing this, my daughter bought me a tablet, said it would be easier, faster, more convenient. I tried it for a week. My memory got worse. There's something about physically writing that activates parts of your brain that typing doesn't touch. The motor control, the hand-eye coordination, the spatial processing of forming letters on a page. I read an article about it once. Research from some university. Students who took notes by hand remembered information better than students who typed, even though typing was faster. The physical act of writing slows you down, forces you to process what you're thinking instead of just transcribing it. For someone my age, that processing is everything. It's the difference between thoughts slipping away and actually retaining them. I have a friend, Eleanor. She's 84. She was having terrible memory problems. Couldn't remember what she ate for breakfast by lunchtime. I told her to try the morning writing. She said her hands hurt too much from arthritis. I convinced her to try anyway. Just 5 minutes at first. She called me 3 weeks later, said something had changed. She was remembering things better. The physical act of writing, even though it was uncomfortable, was waking up her brain in ways nothing else had. Now she writes every morning. Says it's the best 15 minutes of her day. You can try this tomorrow. Just get a notebook, any kind. When you wake up, before you check your phone or turn on the TV, write for 15 minutes about anything. See what happens to your clarity over the next few weeks. The second habit happens during breakfast, and it's probably going to sound strange. I eat the same thing every single morning. Oatmeal with blueberries and walnuts. Same bowl, same spoon, same place at my kitchen table. People think this is boring. My daughter keeps suggesting I vary my breakfast, try new things, keep it interesting. But here's what she doesn't understand. That repetition is protecting my brain. Decision fatigue is real. Every choice you make throughout the day uses up mental energy. What to wear, what to eat, which route to take. Small decisions drain you. By the time you get to important things, to conversations that matter, to tasks that require focus, you're already depleted. I eliminated breakfast decisions completely. I don't have to think about what to make or how to prepare it. The routine is automatic. This frees up mental energy for things that actually matter. But there's more to it than that. The routine itself creates a kind of anchor point for my day. I know that every morning I sit in the same place, eat the same thing, use the same bowl. That consistency gives my brain a framework, a sense of order. When everything else might feel uncertain or confusing, breakfast is constant. And that constancy is stabilizing. I learned this from watching my mother in her final years. She had dementia, but even when she couldn't remember my name, she could still make her morning tea exactly the way she'd always made it. That muscle memory, that routine, it persisted long after other memories disappeared. I thought, if routines can survive dementia, they must be doing something important for the brain. So I built routines deliberately. Breakfast became the first one. Same meal, same time, same place, every single day. And you know what I noticed? My mornings became clearer. I started the day with a sense of groundedness that carried through to everything else. Try it for a month. Pick one meal. Make it the same thing every day. Same time, same place. Notice how it affects your mental clarity. The third thing I do might seem antisocial, but it saved my cognitive function more than anything else. Every afternoon at 2 o'clock, I call someone, a different person every day, and I have a real conversation for at least 20 minutes. Not small talk, not how's the weather, a real conversation where we discuss something meaningful. I have a rotation. Monday is my sister. Tuesday is my old colleague from the library. Wednesday is my neighbor across the hall. Thursday is my daughter. Friday is my friend from church. Saturday and Sunday I call people I haven't talked to in a while. At first, people were confused. Why was I calling so regularly? Was something wrong? Nothing was wrong. I was protecting my brain. Conversation is one of the most complex cognitive tasks humans do. You have to process language, access memories, form responses, read tone, track the flow of discussion, all simultaneously. It's a mental workout that nothing else replicates. When you live alone, it's easy to go days without real conversation. You talk to cashiers, sure, brief exchanges, but not sustained, meaningful dialogue. Without that stimulation, your language centers start to atrophy. Your ability to follow complex discussions weakens. Your memory for conversations gets worse. I watched this happen to my neighbor, Helen. She's 81, lives alone, hardly talks to anyone except her daughter's weekly call. Last time I saw her, she struggled to follow what I was saying. She'd lose the thread of the conversation, forget what we'd just been discussing. Her brain wasn't getting the exercise it needed. My 2 o'clock calls prevent that. They force me to engage, to remember things about people's lives, to ask follow-up questions about things they told me last week. That act of remembering and referencing past conversations, it strengthens the exact neural pathways I need to keep working. Plus, the social connection matters. Isolation isn't just lonely, it's cognitively damaging. Studies show that socially isolated older adults have significantly higher rates of cognitive decline, not because loneliness causes dementia, but because the lack of social engagement removes crucial brain stimulation. My 2 o'clock calls aren't just pleasant, they're medicinal. Start making regular calls. Pick specific people for specific days. Make it a routine. Have real conversations, not just check-ins. Your brain needs that engagement. Now, the fourth habit is something I do in the evening, and it's the one that surprised me most with how effective it is. At 7 o'clock every night, I play a memory game with myself, but not the kind you're thinking of. I reconstruct my entire day in reverse order. I sit in my chair, close my eyes, and work backwards from the present moment. What did I just do? Before that, all the way back to waking up. Every detail I can remember. What I wore, what I ate, who I talked to, what we said, where I went, what I saw. The first time I tried this, I could barely remember past dinner. Everything before that was just blank. That scared me. A whole day, and I could only clearly recall the last 2 hours. But I kept doing it. Every night, 7 o'clock. Reconstruct the day in reverse. And something remarkable happened. Over weeks, I started remembering more. Not just the major events, but small details. The color of a car I saw. Something someone mentioned in passing. The weather in the morning. My memory wasn't broken, it just wasn't being exercised. This reverse reconstruction does something specific. It forces you to actually encode your experiences instead of just letting them wash over you. During the day, you're living on autopilot much of the time. Your brain isn't deeply recording everything. It's saving energy. But when you know you'll need to recall the day later, your brain starts paying better attention in the moment. It knows it will need to retrieve this information. That shift from passive experiencing to active encoding, that's what strengthens memory. I have a friend from my old book club, Marianne. She's 79. She was complaining about her memory getting worse. I told her about the reverse reconstruction. She tried it for 2 weeks and quit. Said it was frustrating because she couldn't remember enough. That's exactly the point. The frustration means you're working the muscle. If it was easy, it wouldn't be helping. I told her that, but she didn't listen. Last time I talked to her, her memory was noticeably worse than mine. Meanwhile, I can tell you what I did 3 days ago. Not perfectly, but the broad strokes and many details. That ability didn't come back by accident. It came from nightly practice. Try it tonight. Before bed, sit quietly and reconstruct your day backwards. Don't judge yourself for what you can't remember. Just notice and do it again tomorrow night. The fifth habit is the one I resisted longest, but it's probably the most important. 3 times a week, I do something I've never done before. Not something big, just new, different from my usual routine. Tuesday this week, I took a different route on my walk. Saw streets I'd never been down before. Thursday, I tried a recipe I found in a magazine. Made a complete mess of it, but that wasn't the point. Saturday, I went to a museum exhibit I normally wouldn't have chosen. Small things, but new things. Here's why this matters. Your brain creates pathways based on what you do repeatedly. The more you repeat something, the stronger that pathway becomes. That's good for habits. It's terrible for cognitive flexibility. When you only do familiar things, you're only using established pathways. Your brain gets efficient at those specific tasks and nothing else. New experiences force your brain to create new pathways, to adapt, to problem solve, to stay flexible. That flexibility is what keeps you mentally sharp. I learned this from an interview I read with a neurologist. She said one of the best predictors of cognitive health in older adults is whether they regularly expose themselves to novelty. Not extreme novelty, just small variations from routine. People who eat at the same restaurant, order the same meal, drive the same route, watch the same shows, their brains calcify. People who introduce small variations, who stay curious, who try new things even when it's uncomfortable. Their brains stay adaptable. I know a woman, Catherine, she's 86, lives in my building. Every day is identical for her. Same breakfast, same TV shows, same walk, same everything. She tells me she likes consistency. It makes her feel safe. But I've watched her cognitive decline over the past 2 years. She repeats herself constantly now. Can't handle anything unexpected. Gets confused by small changes. Her brain has lost its flexibility because she never asked it to be flexible. I don't want that. So 3 times a week, I deliberately do something new. It doesn't have to be big, just different enough that my brain has to adapt. This week, try it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do one small thing you've never done before. Take a different route. Try a new food. Call someone you haven't spoken to in years. Read a different genre of book. Give your brain novelty to work with. So, those are the 5 things. 15 minutes of handwriting every morning. Same breakfast every day to eliminate decision fatigue. A real phone conversation every afternoon. Reverse reconstruction of my day every evening. Something new 3 times a week. Together, they've kept my mind sharper at 88 than it was at 82. I remember conversations. I remember what I did yesterday, last week, last month. I can follow complex discussions. I can learn new things. Most people my age can't say that. Not because they're defective, but because they're not doing the work. They've accepted that memory decline is inevitable, that confusion is normal, that losing sharpness is just part of getting old. It's not. Or at least, it doesn't have to be as severe as people assume. Your brain is a muscle. It responds to exercise. But you have to actually exercise it, not just hope it stays strong on its own. 6 years ago, I was forgetting conversations, losing track of time, feeling foggy most of the day. Now I'm sharper than my daughter in some ways. I remember details she forgets. I follow discussions she loses track of. That didn't happen because I got lucky. It happened because I was consistent with these 5 habits. Morning writing to activate my brain. Routine breakfast to preserve mental energy. Afternoon conversations to exercise language and memory. Evening reconstruction to strengthen encoding. Regular novelty to maintain flexibility. Every single day. No exceptions. And my brain responded. It got stronger instead of weaker. If your memory is slipping, if you're feeling foggy, if you're worried about decline, try these habits. Give them 6 months of real effort. You might be surprised at what your brain can recover when you actually use it the way it needs to be used. Start tomorrow. Write for 15 minutes. Make a phone call. Try something new. Your mind is waiting for you to engage it.